call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We shall have roll call, please, Carolina.
Councilmember Corrales?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Gollington?
Yes.
Mayor Waller?
Yes. First of all, I would like to welcome everybody for attending tonight's city council meeting here on the 11th day of March. It's good to see you fine folks sitting there in the audience. We always like to have guests. So before we, we'll just call it a good welcome. Right now, I'll entertain, first of all, we have to approve our tonight's agenda. So what I do have at least one addition to tonight's agenda, and then I'll bring it back to the council if they have anything else. But we'll add item C under petitions, requests, and communications. And it's a fresh water request. And I guess if the council has anything they would like to add or any corrections, now would be the time for that. And if there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I will so move.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to citizens' comments portion of our meeting. And for those of you that haven't, how many haven't been to a city council meeting before? Just show of hands. Okay, a few of you. It's a good time to just kind of review, just laid out some ground rules, how citizens' comments portions of our meetings work, just so you don't have any ill feelings when you leave and that sort of thing. But our citizens' comments portion is the citizens' opportunity to come and approach the council. It is not a back and forth debate moment, just so you know and understand that. Items, personnel, and nature cannot be discussed in an open meeting format, so just kind of keep that in mind. And concerns and issues that are brought before the city council often need to be researched and deferred in some cases to a higher authority before a really good answer can be given. So if you're coming here expecting to get an answer tonight, may not happen. Just know and understand that your concerns and issues are noted, and that when we can reach a good answer, we'll certainly follow up on or before our next city council meeting. So, and again, I just appreciate everybody for coming tonight. And at this time, I guess I would like to just open it up to citizens' comments and just be respectful of each other, and for lack of no order, whoever wants to go first, certainly come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we'll just proceed until we're done. Bob, you want to go first?
Sure.
All right.
This is my name is Bob Gallagher, and with the exception of the time that I was away from Morris for graduate school and law school, I've been a lifelong resident of Morris. There's no place else I'd rather be. My address is 13 Highland Drive, where I live with my wife Vicki and our two dogs, Kevin and Duffy. I was born at the Morris Hospital. Before it was a Stevens County Hospital, it was on the west side of town. I went to high school in Morris, got my bachelor's degree here at UMM, and I returned to Morris after law school in 1977 to practice law, which I did until I retired for the second time in March of 2024. You asked the question, have I ever been to a city council meeting before? And I did, and I didn't raise my hand because for a time I was the Morris City Attorney. So I was at many council meetings, but that was a long time ago, and I know none of you were on the council at that time. I originally asked to address the City Council because I was quite dismayed to learn of a matter involving an individual, someone who I know is at least a third generational Morrisite, like myself, if you will. Then before tonight even, I actually came to realize that this would be a personnel matter that's not appropriate to be bringing before the council, so I just want to pivot, and I want to address something that I think briefly is important, and that is the wonderful contributions that our city enjoys with the Morris Public Library. I'm old enough to remember Cora Grove when she was the librarian for the city. I don't know if any of you ever knew her or remember her, but even still they have a little fun with her at the Historical Society, putting her picture up around the town times here and there. But anyway, she was at the library. She was an unsmiling, stern woman, very intimidating, and I remember as I would trudge up those many steps to the library when I was like 5 years old, and I'd have to encounter her and her austere appearance looking down at me at the time over that what seemed to be a very tall desk. But actually over time and repeated visits by me, she turned out to be friendly and smile at me. And sometimes when I'd bring my books back, she would have a book or two set aside that she thought I would like. Today's library is so much more than that than what it was back at that time. Books are still books, but now the library, through the efforts of innovative, hardworking librarians, also has things like children's story time, a children's area with a playhouse, many specialty clubs, a silent book club, a cookbook club, a sci-fi book club. I know three of those because my wife participates in those all the time. The library is used for many programs. I've been to a Celtic music lecture with demonstrations that I recently saw Drew Israels give a presentation about a trip to England that he had taken when the Queen was lying in state, and he had slides and all. I went to a medieval fair put on by UMM French students in the community meeting room. The library manages many forms of media, books, magazines, newspapers, video recordings, audiobooks, and even games. There's a lot that goes on in that building across the street, but it really couldn't happen without the efforts, energies, and creativeness of the librarians and their public supporters, including the library board, Friends of the Library, and many volunteers and patrons. I commend to you, City Council, the employees of the library and the job they do. As I said before, I would address the matters that are really of concern in greater detail, but since those are likely personnel matters, this is not the time or the place to voice those concerns, but I can promise you that I and a legion of others will descend upon this elected governing body if management persists in engaging in picayune squabbles, as I have learned are currently ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else would like to approach council?
Hi, I'm nervous, so I'm sorry in advance if I talk fast. I'm Sophia Maruska. I'm the watershed coordinator for the Palm de Te River Association. So the Palm de Te River Association hosted a public informational meeting regarding the Crissy Lake Dam modification project on Thursday, March 6th, also known as the Mill Dam. The meeting was really well attended with around 50 members of the community attending. Attendees were provided with a FAQ sheet, a handout on Rock Arch Rapids, and encouraged to view the various displays. The displays we had included photos of similar completed projects, models of Rock Arch Rapids, bathymetry maps comparing the reservoir depths from 2024 to depths in the 1900s, and the various statewide reports citing the Crissy Dam as the second largest barrier to fish passage in all the tributaries of the Minnesota River Basin. Houston Engineering also printed a 4x4 diagram of one of the options and provided markers for folks to jot down suggestions and indicate areas of concern. Following the open house portion of the event, Houston Engineering gave a presentation highlighting the reasons for dam replacement and showing 3 different alternatives in consideration. There was some confusion because 3 alternatives were presented about, but only one was physically available to comment on. However, we clarified that nothing has been finalized and we are seeking public input before signing any construction contracts. Since the meeting, a section on the Crissy Dam webpage has been made to address concerns about the water level being affected. That was literally an hour ago, so if you checked earlier today, it probably wasn't up yet. There are also concerns expressed about who is advising on the project and who approves the final design. A steering committee of individuals with expertise on the project and relevant interest was formed in late 2024. It is a working group and is continuously changing. As the Pomme de Terre River Association is the fiscal agent for the project and is a board-run organization, the entire Joint Powers Board has been invited to all of the planning meetings since the beginning of the year. The Joint Powers Board includes one Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor and one County Commissioner from each of the 6 counties in the watershed. For the approval, it's complicated. Because the City of Morris owns the lake as part of Pomme de Terre Park, and the parcel maps reflect the shoreline on the west side are also part of the park, the riparian rights are considered public rights. However, because Crissy Lake is not a natural lake and it's a reservoir, it isn't subject to Minnesota Statute 103G.2, which requires lake levels to be maintained for projects. The nature of the funding also makes the project process unconventional. The Get Out More funding was a one-time initiative, so nothing like it has been done before. There are watershed district laws, but the Pomme de Terre River Association is considered a water management organization. This is goofy because the only other WMOs are based in the metropolitan watershed area. The project is also part of the larger Minnesota River Management Plan, which I believe takes precedence. And to top it all off, the dam project was part of the Lac qui Parle Flood Management Plan from the 1930s Works Progress Administration that apparently still gives the DNR commissioner exclusive rights to those projects. However, on the Minnesota statute that is still present in 2024, Stevens County isn't listed, even though the project was part of it. So it's very confusing on who actually has the project approval. Maybe Bob needs a retirement project.
I do know that I was responsible for annexing that to the city. That was the attorney advising the city.
Basically, I want the Pomme de Terre Park neighbors and residents to Morris to know that I hear them and we are looking into their concerns to see what can be done. We aren't going to go forward with the design without reviewing all the public comments and figuring out the best way to mitigate them. All of the regularly scheduled Pomme de Terre River Association Joint Powers Board meetings are open to the public, and meeting information, including a link for virtual attendance, is posted on our website, pdtriver.org. There's also a feedback form specifically for the Crissy Dam project, and individuals are encouraged to use that to submit any questions and comments. This is preferred to reaching out directly to folks on the steering committee, as it is continuously changing. And like I learned last week, somebody emailed Matt and he was in Mexico. And so then someone was like, why hasn't anyone got back to me? And I'm like, Matt was in Mexico. No. So submit the form. The comment form is up until March 20th. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sophia. You did fine. Nothing to be nervous about. We don't bite. Anybody next?
So, I'm Mike Mahoney. This is Tony Reimers. I'm 17 Riverview Drive. Tony, what are you? 21 Riverview Drive. In the Riverside addition to the city of Morris, right across the river from Pomme de Terre Park. Tony and I are both members of the park board. We are here representing ourselves individually, and Bruce and Mary Pat Zerke are also here from our neighborhood in support of the project. So we're here also to talk about the Crissy Lake Dam project, and just wanted to, I'll just read the statement so that I don't miss something here, I guess. So we're here to discuss the Crissy Lake Dam project and strongly encourage the City Council to make a written recommendation to the DNR and the steering committee regarding options 1, 2, and 3 that were presented to the council by the DNR and the Pomme de Terre River Association on January 28th. Specifically, we are advocating for option number 2 as the best available alternative and the most preferred option. If you recall, according to the DNR, and option number 1 as proposed would lower the water level of the existing reservoir by about 18 inches or more. in the DNR's estimation, that would result in the creation of a so-called green space where the former reservoir was located. So when the water recedes, that green space will be created. In the DNR's estimation, that would, as it proposed, all maintenance of that green space would fall back to the city of Morris. Our concern is that by lowering the water levels under option 1, the city and the residents will be left with mud flats where vegetation such as cattails, willows, and buckthorn will eventually take hold and also could affect the accessibility of the river from the park grounds, all of which would dramatically impact the aesthetic value of the Pond de Terre Park, the dog park, and the adjacent residential areas surrounding the river. According to the newspaper articles posted on the Pond de Terre River Association website, Christie Lake Dam was constructed in 1939, as Sophia mentioned, as a cooperative effort by the State Conservation Department and the Division of Parks in order to create recreational opportunities and to attract development within the area. For the past 86 years, those plans have mostly been successful. Pond de Terre Park, the dog park, and the surrounding housing developments were all created as a direct result of the reservoir and the dam. We feel that it is our responsibility as city and city residents to protect and preserve what was created 86 years ago. DNR option number 2 would preserve the existing water levels north of the highway, and by doing so would also protect the aesthetic value of the existing park property and would be easier and least costly option for the city to maintain. For those reasons, we respectfully encourage the City Council to make a written recommendation to the DNR and to the steering committee in support of option number 2. The public comment period, as Sophia mentioned, ends on March 20th, so it doesn't give us a lot of time. So I guess, decisions made now, like I said, it would have an impact possibly for another 80 years. And so we feel strongly that now is the time for the city to act and speak up, and as well as the residents. So thank you for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that, Mike. Appreciate the report too, by the way. It's nice to have. Anybody else that would like to approach the city council, now would be a good opportunity, opportune time for that. Hearing or seeing none, I shall close the citizens' comments portion of our meeting. We have no public hearings tonight, so we shall move on to our meeting, reading and approval of our regular meeting minutes from February 25th, 2025.
I'll move approval of the regular meeting minutes from 2025.
Just for confirmation before a second, that those are the updated ones that you sent out?
Yep.
Very good, then I will second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the February 25th, 2025 regular meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have the condensed version of the minutes. These are for the newspaper from February 25th, 2025.
I will move approval of the condensed minutes from our February 25 meeting.
Again, the updated ones.
Thank you.
I will second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the February 25th, 2025 condensed version of the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now we have the consent agenda, short one tonight. Consent agenda, which consists of the audit of city bills and our gambling reports. And I guess I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion and a second. I'll just throw it back to the council for any discussion on any of the items on the consent agenda. Lengthy gambling report. Somebody's making money. Council's good?
Yep.
Hearing no comments, we have a motion and a second on that consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same side. Motion to approve the consent agenda carries. Next before us is our petitions, requests, and communications. First item we have to work with here is the Tourism Board marketing recommendations. You know, I'm gonna stop for a second. I don't know if anybody, I forgot to introduce Abigail. For those of you who are wondering who this fine young lady is sitting here, it's Abigail Alcantar. She's our junior council representative, so sorry for not introducing you right up front.
You're good.
Now everybody knows. It's pretty exciting. I don't know how many meetings you've been to, since January, right?
Yep.
All right. Hard charging senior at Morris Area High School. Okay, thank you. Here we go. Tourism Board marketing recommendations. Becky, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so the tourism board met. They looked at two different requests. So USA Today, Go Escape Midwest, travel publication. They had asked if we wanted to be in their magazine. After going to the tourism convention and talking about maybe looking at a strategic plan, that one is going to be tabled for now. The other one, which you guys had already approved, $1,600 for the Tinman Triathlon Inflatable. So they're ending and beginning of their event. When they went to go out for a quote, prices increased. So they're looking at getting it local, not only to do it local, but also because the material that they used was more heavy duty than the one that they had first got a quote from last year. So going up, the cost would be $2,400 instead of the $1,600 that was already approved. So they're just asking for to be able to spend $2,400 for this inflatable for the Tin Man Triathlon.
Just another $800, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But to add in there, according to the notes, that it's expected to last us 15 to 20 years.
Yes.
So it's not a one-time purchase
One
or
and done,
annual.
right.
It'll be something that's
That they
hopefully,
continuously use.
with a little bit of care, will last for many years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I like that we're able to use a local company as well, which makes a big difference. And I think usually our boards look into these things very closely, so.
I will move approval to spend the $2,400 for the purchase of the inflatable per the tourism board's recommendation.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the Tourism Board marketing recommendations. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item up is our Planning Commission candidates. And thank you to the volunteers. We have 3, and I believe there's 1 vacancy. Becca, is that correct? We have 3 candidates, Deb Stark, Daryl Malfair, and Rob Lonergan, all vying for 1 spot. So how do we do that, Becky? You want to speak to this? I guess it's nice to see all the candidates,
Absolutely.
first of all.
Yeah.
So we have to select one, or?
You would have to select one. Mm-hmm.
All right, Council, I'm going to throw it right back to you.
I would say usually we don't have 3 volunteers for 1 spot, so it's a little unusual.
It is kind of new.
I think all of us are like,
Well, we've had a lot of uncharted things happening lately, so why would this be any different?
Yeah. I don't really know how to handle that one, actually, if,
Well, I'll go ahead and make that. I'm gonna, I appreciate everybody stepping up to volunteer for our one spot. Like you said, Brian said, we don't normally have that. And looking at the names, I'm looking at the planning commission and zoning, and a lot of this stuff, not a lot, but a lot of it depends, or is looking at things that affect our downtown as well as the rest of the area. And having someone that represents a downtown business who's been here for a long time, the business has, I think is important to have someone on one of our commissions and boards for that. So I'm gonna go ahead and nominate Rob Lonergan for that position on the planning commission. And if the rest of you have something else you wanna say or in support of someone else, but.
I would agree with you that it is important to our downtown, especially in our zoning and a lot of that stuff. What we've gone past years zoning has had to do with residential versus downtown, so I would agree with that, and I would second that nomination.
Okay. Yeah, and life in a small town, you know, we all know each other, so once again, I just want to thank everybody that that stepped forward, and you know, just if you didn't get selected this go around, just hang in there. There might be other opportunities down the road. So we have a first and a second to nominate Rob Lonergan to the Planning Commission. I guess I'll ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Pellicet,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Corrals,
Yes.
Mayor Waller.
Yes. Congratulations to Rob, and thanks again to the other candidates. Next before us is fresher water request. That was the item we added at the beginning of the meeting. Beck, I'll let you take that and explain that first.
So Fresha has been doing a feasibility study for their water and their wastewater. So they came to us to start the process of putting in the water line yet this year. So we'd like to move forward, maybe get a committee of you guys together to look at an agreement to talk about, do we want to upsize the line, who's responsible, different costs, different things involved with that as we work through that. But we'd like to move forward so we can start working on some permits if this is something that you guys are willing to move forward with, and working with, as we work through the agreement, start the process of working through those permits with the railroad and the county. Do you have any questions on the water going
I think
out
it's
there?
it's exciting. When we built this water treatment plant, we built it for expansion, and now we're there. So I think it's exciting to have another user on our water. So, council, if you want to weigh in, certainly now's the chance.
We do have the capacity.
We do have the
water plant,
capacity.
we've been working on this for a while with our water department, correct?
Yep, we do have the capacity with the water. They're gonna hold off on the sewer until their feasibility study is done and we figure out what we want to have for our standards for all of the influence, but, yeah.
If there's a potential also to do the sewer, is it a chance that it's both gonna get done at the same time?
Not
What
at the same
timeframe?
time.
I mean, it would make sense if we're doing one, if we're in the right of way
I
to try to do
believe
it.
they would be in different trenches.
Correct.
So one would go down the ditch and the sewer would be in the road.
Sorry, one would be towards the backside of the right of way, the water line. And then the sanitary would most likely be more like the shoulder line, so your maintenance department could access the manholes.
And the two properties, Henches is on the east side, and then, of course, Tom Lesmeiser's up on the hill to the west side. Are we gonna lay a stub up there so they can hook up maybe at some point, or what are you thinking?
It would be logical for the city to do that.
Yeah, because they may not want to do it now, but down the road, I guess that would make sense.
Right. I would agree with what you said, Mayor. I mean, we built the plant big enough to take on these sort of projects, and we should welcome them when they come. So I think that's a great idea. Are we, I didn't.
So you're looking for more like a couple of volunteers for
Yep.
subcommittee.
To look at some different things with the agreement, kind of like who pays what, and have some of those discussions before we bring them back to council.
Okay.
Have we discussed at all cost on participating with city or with Fresha on the cost of the line?
You know, the only thing we've talked about together is if we upcharge, would that be city's cost? And, you know, because they only need an 8-inch line. If we ever decided we wanted to loop around, we need a 12-inch line. Is that our cost, their cost? I think having a committee to get together, talk to them, talk to our engineer, our staff, I think it would be helpful before we bring back.
But they're willing to participate in the line, are part of the cost, or the cost to run.
They're
the
doing
line?
the cost of the line. We just have to figure out if we are,
Okay.
if our
Additional.
cost would be
Okay.
to upsize
Sure.
the line.
I think that makes sense, yes, and the more water we put through our plant, I think it should make it more economical for everybody. If we're not at capacity, the closer to capacity, I would think that it'll be more economical to run our facility.
So all you're looking for from us then is volunteers for the subcommittee?
Mhm.
Okay, couple volunteers,
I could make time.
Brian and Jeff? Okay, and do we need to vote on that, or is it just,
Put your hand up first. It's right there.
we don't need to vote on that?
It's in my wheelhouse.
Heck, yeah, congratulations.
Well, that was a,
Fresha Subcommittee is now established.
Can I get that time banked instead of adding on?
Start baking that overtime. None for Brian, though, he's gotta catch up. Okay, no further discussions on the Fresha thing then for
we
now?
don't,
No,
we don't
it
need
sounds-
any you don't need any,
No, because we'll come back with an agreement on,
Yeah,
how it's
that
all
was under
gonna look.
petitions
Mhm.
requests, so we'll have a formal resolution, I imagine, at a later date then? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Good deal. We shall move on then. Next before us, under ordinances and resolutions, we have a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for the East 7th Street project. Once again, I'll bring it back to our city manager.
yeah, so the design is done. We're just getting final approvals from the state. We are still going to be working with Woodseth on this project. They will finish it out. So they have said that it's time that we look to go out for bids. Bids will come back in, thinking about that April 17th at 11:30. They're all electronic now, but this will authorize them to go out for bids.
With plans to try to get it done this year,
Yes,
okay?
okay.
And this is just the street
just the
Rebuild
street
or
and
reconstruction, there
store.
is no water sewer. We, at our meetings, determined there wasn't enough interest with the property owners along that to do that, so.
Right.
Yeah, this has been a work in progress. For those of you who don't know, we've talked about this East 7th Street project for, on and off for well over 5 years, I know. And regretfully, we aren't in a position to do water and sewer, but at least we're gonna get the street fixed. So that's good. All right, so any other discussion on the East 7th Street resolution?
Well, I'll move approval of the resolution authorizing advertising for bids for the East 7th Street project.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve that resolution authorizing advertising for bids for the East 7th Street project. Once again, Caroline, I'll ask for a roll call vote on that, please.
Councilmember Solby,
Yes.
Correll,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes,
Mayor Waller.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. We got, next up is our city manager's newsletter, so I'll bring it back to Becca.
Yeah, so, Chrissy Lake Dam, Sophia did a good job of going over kind of what the meeting was about. There were a lot of questions about the lower water levels. We do, like the guy said, we do have until the 20th to make a comment, or people to make comments, and then we have our steering committee meeting on the 24th. So if there is a direction that you want me to share at that, I sure can, but it sounded from the public that most of them were in favor of option 2 that kept the water level at the top.
I would recommend the council as a unit make a recommendation to go with the update on the dam and with the option 2 to retain the water level north of County Road 10 at the current level or as close to that as possible, as I think it's a valuable asset, and I think trying to make a beautiful site with the water up next to our park and the residents along there, it's gonna be really tough with what's left in the shoulders of the river, or where it potentially is gonna flow. That I think it'll be a long process to get it to look decent along there. So I would like to see a letter from the city manager supporting the dam project with option 2 with the support of the council.
I agree with Councilmember Miller that option 2 is what I'd like to see there also. I think that I wasn't at the meeting, but I did hear that maybe the county might be in favor of that also. I think there's a project that needs to be done to that road, and that bridge might be, I don't know, older than everybody here. That probably maybe not.
Except for Bob.
Maybe not.
So it is older.
But I mean, I would like to see it that way also. I think that's a better option. And I do think that, you know, if they want to get something done, that's the one that I would be in favor of. Is this something that we send a letter? Do we make a motion to send a letter with our approval of, or wanting it to be option 2? What's your thoughts, Mayor?
Well, I think, you know, what Becca could do is just formulate a letter to that effect, and if we all need to read it and review it, and then stamp off, that's fine. We could do that. Well, we don't have a meeting before
No,
the
we don't.
20th, do we? So, well, let's just give her direction now to draft that letter, and I guess we could see a draft. You know, you could email us a draft, and we just don't have to respond, but just so
Are you
we
meeting
have one to
with
review.
somebody in regards to that, like before the end of the month?
We have a steering committee meeting on the 24th.
So with the steering committee, it'd be nice to have that presented, but to present it to the different sites that we can, I think it just to show our support for it with that option.
Okay.
Yeah, she could just draft it and send it to us for a look, you know, just to look at
Is
it.
it maybe to make it official, maybe if I made a motion to direct
Yep.
the city manager to draft a letter
Yep.
for
Form it in a
the
motion,
city,
that's fine.
to city have support of option 2, I would make that motion.
Okay, that's a first. Anybody
will
want a
second.
second? All right, so we have a motion and a second to direct our city manager to draft a letter in support of option 2 for the Chrissy Lake Dam project. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. You got homework. All right, thank you.
I'd also like to encourage people to comment on the website that Sophia said. I think Bruce and Tony and Mike all made very valid points in there, and I think that's super important. That's our big tourism, and you guys, I mean, without the water level there, it would be very, very different and very, very disheartening to have spent all that money, time, and energy into our park there, into the homes along there, to have it muck, marsh. I mean, let's face it, you take all that water out and it's not gonna be beautiful green grass where we're gonna be able to put more campsites whatsoever. It's just gonna be, it's gonna look like when they took the pool out, it's just gonna, yeah, it's very disappointing to think that our river would be lowered for this, because there are other options, and option 2 was a good option. I guess one of the things that I got a call on from that meeting was that they were wondering why we as a city were in favor of this, and it's like, we're not. But it seemed to be, this person got the impression that it was presented that way, whether it was not or not, but the city did not approve the go-ahead of this. What we approved is for them to look at funding over a year ago, which is really unfortunate because we got just a notice like, okay, from Becca, I think, saying that they're looking for funding to redo the dam. Well, at that point, I don't think anybody thought, well, I didn't think that it was gonna be lowering the lake level. So I think I don't know, it just kind of makes it seem like, well, from now on, if someone comes to us and asks for approval, I want to see the whole plan before we say yes, because this was funding, and for some reason, a few people have interpreted this as the city was in favor of it, and that's actually not accurate. So, and I think by making that statement that we're in favor of plan option 2 would be a good way to clarify that, so.
Is there any additional cost to the city on option 2, Becca?
I don't think there's any
I don't think
cost.
there's
There's
cost
none.
as well.
Oh, is there?
You want to speak to that, Sophia? Probably now would be a good time to have that discussion.
So option 1 includes native seeding and restoration of the new green space. Studies are showing that whether we do option 1 or option 2, the Chrissy Lake is going to fill in with sediment anyway. The lake depth has dropped 5.5 feet in the past 86 years. The only difference with option 2 is that when that green space becomes, 20, 50 years from now, it's going to be cattails and buckthorn, whereas now we can just make it and do native seeding, planting, tilling, whatever we need to do to kind of manage that. So if the city were to go with option 2, they'd have to think of another project in the future, I guess, to manage the lake dropping. Does that make sense?
Over time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Perfect.
Yes, and I have all the diagrams and stuff on the water level webpage, like an overlay of the 1951 map and the 2024 map, so you can see how much the shoreline has decreased and the trends. Like I said, it was just done an hour ago. I'm not a web designer, so it takes me time to do these things. But yeah, so that'd be the only additional cost.
Well, I mean, I think we'd have that regardless. If you don't we're not dropping the water level to the north of the road, and if we did nothing, we're not dropping it. So over time, if it just keeps dropping and dropping, yeah, we're gonna end up with that situation if that's the case. So we're not creating anything different for ourselves by doing it this way. At this point, because eventually it would happen anyways.
Well, and I think too, water changes everything. Look at lakes 25 years ago. The
Yep.
shorelines of lakes have changed it. So it's to say that, oh yeah, it's gonna change to this, we don't know that. I mean, it's changed because that's what water does. It changes things. Changes the way the layouts are. It changes from what was a pond or a slough to sometimes a bigger area. I mean, I've seen that. I grew up in the Otter Tail Lakes area, so I saw that for years. What used to be ditch water then ends up to be somehow a lake 15 years later. They name it a lake. So it's water does change things, and we don't know how it will change. We just know that dropping it will change it. I mean, manually dropping it's going to change it. So
Yeah, and it's difficult to take a long range view of this, 5, 10 years after, it's gonna look different than it
Right.
will, of course,
Yep.
initially, but it's, I think many of us in this room can remember taking swimming lessons out at Pomme de Terre. I know I did. So I don't know, I agree with Councilmember Vellington, it'd be kinda sad to see that drop.
Thank you for your
Yes,
input. I really
yes.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Sophia.
And we're still just making the recommendation to go with the 2.
Right.
It might change and might not be that, but that would be a letter just supporting option 2.
Right.
Correct.
So is what we're stating, so.
Yep. Okay.
All right, and then our tourism meeting, so along with the request, the board talked about planning for the future and what that would look like. So we met, we're meeting with an Explore Minnesota employee to discuss different ideas. Carolina and I reached out to a different destination marketing organization out of Woodbury to kind of pick his brain on how they're set up and how they utilize funds. He said before we even discuss kind of what we want to do with our funds, that the first step is to get in touch with someone and do a strategic plan to kind of see how we want to do things. Their strategic plan has told them, and they're from the cities, but to do it from within and then move out. So that's kind of how they're working now. So he's sending us contact information for a few people that did theirs. So we'll have to talk to the board at the next meeting to discuss, you know, instead of, I think at our next meeting, they talked about wanting to look at a plan. But I think our plan should be to hire someone to do some strategic planning. Once we have that, I know we've talked for a while about, do we want to have an employee? Do we not want to have an employee for the tourism? I think once we have a plan, then we'll know if an employee would be the direction to go with that. So I think it all depends on kind of where we want to go with the tourism. So still a lot of good things going on there. On the Charter Commission, I've reached out to all the members about their first meeting. I heard back from most of them, and the majority wanted to meet on the 20th. So next week we will meet on the 20th at 5:15 here for our first meeting. So
I'm sorry, when is that, Becca?
the 20th, March 20th,
Okay,
next week.
that's for the,
Have we got them sworn in yet?
Yes, so they all went and signed their affidavit with Joe.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep.
thank you.
Yeah, and so last meeting we talked about the university outreach with Landon. So we met again with him and Dave Swenson, and then Sarah to discuss the ideas. One of them, like I talked last meeting, was a battle of the bands. We are still very excited to work with the university to bring students into the community. Dave thought with the dates kind of thrown out there for that April was kind of a busy month for them, and to maybe push that back until fall semester. But then kind of work on how to get something with Welcome Week out into the community. And then come up, so we were tasked with creating a list of standing events in the community that we can give out to students during Welcome Week. So if there are certain things that you know about that you're like, oh, this happens every month, every week, every 2 months, let us know. We're going to compile a big list so students have something right away when they come into to school that says, hey, these are different things that go on in the community. So like bingo, trivia, anything like that that would get kids out into the community. Yeah, that's what we are tasked with to do. So still working with them. We're going to start meeting monthly just to kind of keep everybody in the loop. Make sure that we're all kind of on the same page and continue to connect.
With the university, I know we talked about having a meeting, one of our meetings out there in the fall. It's March. Wouldn't hurt to just try to pick a date and make that happen, because we do a meeting up at the high school in the spring, and I think it'd be kind of nice to do one of our meetings out at the university in the fall. Spread it. That'd, I think, help our relationship a little bit too.
I agree with you, Mayor.
We already talked about Fresha, so sounds like everybody is in agreement of moving forward with their water line. And then More Engineering, we met with them last Friday, had a meeting to go over kind of next steps. So we're getting them some information on the West Side project that we wanted to do this year, but the assessments were projected to be way too high. So we'll continue to work with them to have them get to know our city and to move forward with some projects. So,
All right. Any questions from the city manager's newsletter? Comments?
Well, I think that it's exciting that you're actually looking at a strategic plan for the tourism board. That's like way long overdue, way long. So that'll be good to hopefully get that done and then be able to move forward. at a much faster pace than
Absolutely.
what's been going on. So cool. Is that Landon someone who would be a good person to have on the tourism board? I know there's still a spot open, or is he too busy? I mean, is that
Oh, I don't
in a
know.
connect, as someone to connect with as a, you know?
University and city as
Yes, yes.
I can certainly ask him.
Yeah.
He is definitely
Well, he seems like
very
he's,
excited
yeah,
and
yeah.
wanting to get involved in the community and get other students involved in the community. So I will definitely ask him that one.
Super.
Okay. Any other items for the city manager? No? Okay. We shall move on. The next item up on our agenda is the board updates. This is from the mayor and the city council, for the mayor and the city council. And this is where we all participate in different boards. And this is the opportunity for the councilmen, council representatives and myself to give any board updates to our city manager. Just keep us all informed on what's going on in our various boards. So now is the time, if anybody would like to share anything that's going on in their various boards, glad to hear it.
I would put it out there for the RFC, and we now have 24/7 access. We've been working on that for a long time. I think the official was probably back in February, but just to get it out there again, that everybody does know that, and that I want to say that they've worked long and hard on it, and a lot of people put a lot of effort in it. Thanks to Monique that runs, or is the director there. It's done a wonderful job, so I just wanted to get that out to everybody.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. If you
That's
can't,
not a
if you can't,
24-hour walk-in, you need to access it with a,
the
You
fob.
would need a fob,
Yeah,
yeah.
fob.
so you need to sign up or get the fob or to get the information to have access to do that.
Correct.
Anything you'd like to add to that, Tony? Like,
It comes with all memberships, you do have to do a one-time purchase for the plastic fob, but as long as you have a membership, that fob will last you 10, 15, 20 years.
so if your spouse is snoring and you can't sleep, you have an option.
should be a really good thing.
How you wake her up to get her out there with the fob?
Honey, go run a mile. See how far I get with that one.
Planning Commission met last week. The variance for the Baseball Association did pass.
Ooh,
So
all
they
right.
still have work on their end to do, but that did pass.
It's good to know. I know the Baseball Association's worked hard on that, so the Planning Commission worked with them, so yeah, it's good to see. Exciting project coming ahead there.
Park Board meets tomorrow night. Would probably try to make a recommendation for them also to make a letter of support for the Chrissy Lake project with option 2, and hopefully have that presented or back to City Hall for Becca to process that where it needs to go. But I think the more support we have from different departments or different groups, the better we are to get what we want.
Well, my boards are forthcoming, so I don't have anything to report from any of mine, so.
Both mine are tomorrow, so.
All right.
I'd just like to also thank the people that came out, for the Chrissy Lake Dam, or you came out for whatever you did. It's important that you do come to the meetings. It's important that you do have a say. I've been called on projects or been asked, and it's great that you do come, and because we don't always know what everybody's thinking. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Any other business to come before the council?
I have one other item.
All right. I like
I
it.
think it's time. Actually, we normally have a meeting at the high school before school is out. If we could line up a date to do that again, if the city manager would line up with the high school for us to have our annual council meeting up at school one of the mornings here coming up shortly. And bring a date back for us to try to make sure that works with the school and with us, but normally mid-morning or whatever works with their scheduling, but
Okay.
it's always entertaining to go up and show our local youth how our city government works.
That's Jim, right? Probably Jim
Greenie.
Greenwell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've done 10 before, haven't we? Or I can't
It's
remember.
I feel like
been
it's
9,
been
10
10.
o'clock, what works
Yeah,
for them,
9,
I mean,
10.
between classes.
Oh, yeah, I'll
I
ask
think
him.
it's whatever works for their
I
ninth
think we're
grade
pretty flexible,
civics
what
class.
works with them with their classes and bells, but yes.
Let's see if we can make it a little exciting. I think some of them have pretty been boring. I don't know if we have anything exciting on the docket, but.
Yeah, we don't
What
like
you wish for.
catch the kids nodding off. We'll put them to sleep in a hurry.
They'll never want to go into government when they see those meetings.
All right, any other business come before the council? Any informational items? Hearing none.